a name of a program. You will not find this in the college catalogs. When they transfer the credits to other schools, they are not to use the name Project Running Start. They're to use the name of the course that they have taken. Essentially, they tell the students you get 2 for the price of 1. It is a cost of $100. And for that $100, they can earn 3 or 4 college credits depending on the course that they're taking that the college offers that aligns with the high school course that they are taking at the high school. Enrollment is optional when they take a high school course. For instance, if they take marketing or biotechnology at the high school, they are both Running Start classes. They can opt to take it as a Running Start class and earn college credit, or they can choose not to. It's their choice. They will have a college transcript at the end of the course. So after grades are submitted for us, that would be at the end of the school year. Then they can transfer those credits to colleges that they will be attending in the fall. The student benefits, I think the biggest benefit is that it saves money. When you consider the cost is $100, I know as a parent I have paid more than $100 for the textbook for a course that my student is taking. What I'd like to draw your attention to is the quote at the bottom of the page. It says, "This was an extremely helpful program and it has placed me at a greater advantage over other college students. I am now a freshman at Rochester Institute of Technology taking sophomore status classes," and this is from a Milford High School graduate student. On your desk you have a booklet called Running Start, the Fast Track to College 101, and on page 4 there are some other comments and quotes from students that have gone through the program that are now at college. They do go through the transfer process with the students that they have to, that when they take a Project Running Start class and they go to college, the high school doesn't transfer those college credits for them. They have to go through the process of transferring the credits themselves. And on page 13 of that same book is the authorization to release transcripts. So when a college like Worcester Polytechnic Institute or Simmons College receives the transcript, what they see is that the student took the course at the college. They don't know that they took it at the high school. They do have to have a grade of C or better in order to achieve or earn those college credits. And they have to apply those credits to a major. If they change their mind when they go to college or they're not sure what they're majoring in, oftentimes the college will allow them to use those credits as elective credits to replace an elective class. And it gives them the ability to take something else of interest while they're in school if they so desire to take a full course load rather than reduce the course load because they're transferring in with credits. This is the registration form that the students fill out. It's very simple. Parents do have to sign it, and you see in the box over on the right side that they do make out a check for $100 to the New Hampshire Community Technical College. And for as long as I've known of the program at the high school, that cost has not gone up at all. It has not changed since we started the program. We started, I believe, 2001. The 2001-2002 school year was our first course, and it was a marketing class, and the cost has remained stable. These are the courses. Again, this is a PowerPoint that our students are shown by a representative from the college, and they show them the instructor at the high school and the course name, and the course numbers are the college numbers that they would put on their application form. So we have accounting, anatomy and physiology, biotechnology, visualbasic.net. That is a spring course. That is on there by mistake because this is just the fall classes. Java, which is AP Computer Science, C++ programming, IT Essentials, which we call repair, computer maintenance and repair actually, and WAN Technologies, which is Cisco, and LAN is Cisco 1 and 2. We also have 2 new classes this year that have become college Running Start courses, and that's College Prep Calculus and Honors Physics. At the college, it's Calculus 1 and College Physics 1. So we have marketing and also photography. In the spring, we will add additional classes that have always run, but they only are spring classes. For instance, Future Educators has one particular class that runs in the spring only. Right? The tuition, as I mentioned earlier, is $100. And for that $100, they do not need to purchase a book. They do not have to travel to the college. It's simply sitting in your high school classroom, achieving a C or better, and meeting all the expectations of the program. If a student cannot afford those $100, they can apply for a scholarship, and I did put those applications in a packet to you earlier so you can see. It is based on financial need, and they have to be eligible for the free and reduced lunch program. And there is also another process that they can go through for monies to pay for this that have nothing to do with financial need. And this particular fall, we had 7 of our students receive scholarship money from the state so that they did not have to pay the $100. There is a deadline for this year. It was, again, this is the PowerPoint that our students saw in the fall, and their applications were due on October 30th. And we deal mainly with the Concord, Manchester, and Stratham locations. In Manchester, most of our courses are offered there. But Stratham, the computer maintenance repair, and the Cisco program come out of that office, and the Project Lead the Way and the engineering courses come out of the Concord location, which is the New Hampshire Technical Institute. And then just things for the students to remember. They want to make it very clear that this is not a guarantee, and they have an opportunity to enroll only to the date that's set and not beyond that, that it is optional, that the coursework is expected to be demanding, and that they do have to pay for the class to make sure that they make the check out to New Hampshire Community Technical College, not their high school, and that enrolling does not guarantee passing, that they have to pass the class, and that they're able to drop the class. They will have to go through the drop process, just as if they're in high school, by a particular date, drop the course, or that F goes on their transcripts. And just, there are 7 community colleges, and they should know where their credits are because of the 3 different locations that we work with. And if you have any questions, oh, I do have one more. This was not part of the presentation that the college gave, but I asked and compiled some statistical analysis from, since we started the program, of the number of students that have enrolled since, and we've had 614 students take advantage of this program since inception. Are there any questions?
So Diane, let's stay on this slide for a minute.
This slide here?
Yep.
Yes.
So let's use,
Since
let's
I
use.
can't see that far, I'm going to sit here so I can see it on the screen.
Oh, yeah, it's fine. Let's use accounting for a minute. So when do the students actually enroll in the program?
In this particular case, well, they enroll annually or by semester.
Right.
When school
Okay.
starts up. They had to enroll by October 30th this year for the fall semester.
How about for the spring
The
semester?
spring, date has not been announced yet, but New Hampshire Community Technical College rep will come out again and speak to those classes of students, and they will have the opportunity to enroll.
So that's my question. So let's say the students use any of these, but accounting. So New Hampshire Tech representative comes to the first period accounting class and says, here's the program. Are you interested?
Yes.
That's
In the
how,
past-
that's how this information is passed through to the students?
Right. In the past, that's how it has been done, but this year, we've expanded to so many courses that we actually had 2 representatives come out, and they could not physically get around to all the classes and do, so what I did was arrange for an all-day event in 221, our lecture hall, where the teachers would bring their class, and there'd be one presentation, sometimes to 3 or 4 classes at a time, because we had several Project Running Start courses running at the same time.
What I'm wondering is, how does the communication get to the parents? Because my
unfortunately,
child may be in these classes. Okay, I got another presentation, a piece of paper, it's the beginning of the school year.
Correct. Well, in our program of studies, every course is listed that is a Project Running Start class, and Project Running Start is explained in the program of studies. In addition to that, there is in your packet that you have received for tonight's meeting, a letter and information that does go home. Of course,
Okay.
we have to depend for the students to bring
sure.
that information home. And I know it doesn't always get there, because I've had parents, when I taught Project Running Start courses, call me after the deadline saying they heard from another parent.
That's what I'm
Their
saying.
child didn't bring the paperwork home.
Okay.
It happens.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions from the board? Diane, is that 614 students, or is it 614 enrollments where one child can be
Sorry.
taken 2 or 3 classes?
That's 614 enrollments.
Thanks. I'm sure it's not that far different, but I'm just curious.
You'd be surprised, some students can earn, there was an article in the paper several years ago, it wasn't a Londonderry student, but one student earned his entire first year of college at his high school and started out as a sophomore. Significant savings.
Yeah, you're not kidding.
Go ahead, Steve.
What do the teachers do to prepare for this so that they're capable of doing it?
All right. They have to qualify to be an instructor, a professor of the school. You have to have a master's degree, that's number one. You have to submit all your credentials, your transcripts. You do have to submit a course syllabus, an outline, pacing guide, et cetera. They have to know that your course aligns with their. You also have to submit your book. The book does have to be an up-to-date textbook, a very recent textbook. If not, then we either forgo becoming a Project Running Start class, or we purchase a textbook. In the case of biotechnology, we're using the same book that they're using, and the book is $160.40 a piece, and that's a significant savings for the students. You know, but they are earning 4 college credits. I know with anatomy and physiology, the teacher told me a student just emailed him recently. She's a college freshman, and in her class, she received the credits for the first session. In the second course, they tested her, and because she learned so much in high school, they gave her an additional 4 credits. So she received 8 credits for taking anatomy and physiology in high school.
I just wanted to make sure that the ghost of Reed. I just wanted to make sure that the teachers were qualified to do the
They have to
instruction
be-
and all that.
Yes, they have to pass criteria established by the college. It would be as if they were teaching at the college. They have to be as qualified.
Yeah, I can remember our high school back in ancient time, when I was in high school. Syracuse University gave courses at our high school with a similar method. And when I got to college, we were trying to make up some credits, and somehow I let it slip that I actually took one of these classes, and then they got the transcript and found out I didn't have to take English, at least for one semester. I have an answer to this question, but why would a student not want to take this, other than the $100?
Part of it is the $100, and I believe they don't have an understanding of the advantage they have by doing so. They don't have the college experience, they just don't understand.
I'll give you one other reason other than they don't bother to tell their parents, like Dan brought up. If they don't do well, it does go on their transcript.
Yes, however, if it's the only course they take, they just don't ask to have that transcript sent to
Transfer.
their college. Oftentimes, I had a freshman boy last year who took the Project Running Start. So as a freshman in high school, he started earning college credits. And I'm sure he'll earn many, and he had an A,
Wow.
a solid A. I'm sure he'll earn many more before he graduates from high school.
Thank you.
Nate, is there any way, to follow up on Dan's question, is there any way we can send out the letter in the guidance news or to the parents as a separate mailing to the parents of all the high school students to make them aware of it, since they may have more of a reason to get the children to take this than the students do?
You either can send out a separate mailing, or we can make sure it goes in the principal's newsletter or the guidance newsletter.
Exactly.
We can get that out, sure.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none. Thank you very much, Diane.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Diane.
Okay. Going back to the agenda, is any questions and announcements from the board? Superintendent?
Yes, I have 2 announcements that we're really pleased with. We want to congratulate Londonderry's Quiz Bowl team of Gregor Stocks, Alex Walker, Steve Bowen, and Andrew Kearns for a phenomenal 10-0 record at Saturday's home meet. The team's victory clinched the regional championship and qualifies Gregor Stocks for a place on New Hampshire's state team at the Panasonic Academic Challenge this upcoming June in Disney World, where he and 5 other New Hampshireites will compete against teams from across the nation. We want to congratulate them all. It's just absolutely wonderful. And then we received just recently, we're also very pleased to announce that Alexandria McKinney has been selected to the 46th Annual United States Senate Youth Program from March 1st through the 8th. A $5,000 scholarship will be awarded to her. The scholarship will be utilized in accordance with their guidelines. And this is just an outstanding opportunity. She gets to spend this time in Washington, D.C. They have a whole program outlined where she gets to spend time with senators and representatives and watch how everything works and get a good understanding of government. So we're really very pleased for her. It's a great honor.
Excellent. Thank you. Questions, announcements from the audience? Seeing none. Meetings. As I mentioned previously, on December 13th, we'll be holding our next meeting. We will start that meeting at 6:45, and we will be discussing the program of studies for the high school. And then at 7 o'clock, we will begin our budget workshop. That will be held in this room. On December 18th at 7 o'clock, we have a budget workshop in this room also. Motion for the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Second with discussion.
Discussion. Okay, George, you want to start?
I'll start. One notable individual who's retiring. This person, after several years of teaching in Manchester, she took time off to raise a family. Susan Claubert began her career in Londonderry by working as a substitute teacher, 2 different long-term positions in 84 to 85 and 85 to 86. She then accepted a full-time position teaching science and what was then Londonderry High School in 1987. In the past 20 years, she's become to be known as an outstanding science educator who's made an enormous impact on several generations of Londonderry students. And her influence continues with her leadership involving the floating lab experience, which sometimes gets not floated because it gets a little rough. My kids missed it and we're not happy with that. And the commitment to the students and staff at the entire middle school. Her science knowledge and enthusiasm for her subject are absolutely unrivaled, according to her peers. And this well-deserved retirement is going to make it difficult for us to find yet another science teacher. And we thank you for her years of service. 20 years, we appreciate that.
And another retiree coming up is Bart Hemerick from the South School, and she'd been there since that school opened in 1978. She's worked with 3 principals through those years, and day in and day out, Bart demonstrates a strong work ethic with consistent follow-through for her students with whom she works. She's also willing and eager to attend meetings. You don't find that very often, do you? No matter what the time, to follow up with a outside therapist and to help her colleagues with problems and situations as they arise. Bart has a wealth of knowledge that she's able to utilize when working with families, and she's able to share her knowledge with parents in a manner that is understandable and appropriate. Bart's become our resident expert in CPI training and helps to facilitate that training for the district. She chairs the crisis response team over at South School and takes initiative to update staff on protocols for working with those students. Bart also contributes to the district by managing the Safe and Drug-Free Schools and Community grant that funds several of the programs here in the district. And in her role at South School, she also serves as a SAIF evaluator. Additionally, Bart serves on the South School Teacher Assistance Team and the PBIS Target Team, and contributes meaningful solutions to creating positive outcomes for our children. Obviously, the district will miss her, and the board wishes her the very best in her retirement.
On the last retirement we have here is for Tom Sawyer. Tom started both the football program in 1980 and the lacrosse program in 1979. His football record was 188 and 87 losses. He led his team into 12 championship games, winning 6 of them in 85, 86, 88, 94, 96, and 98. He was undefeated also in 86, 88, 96, and 98. In 1996, his football team was crowned New England champions by Nesson. One of the biggest compliments that he received in the past is when Brian O'Reilly from Pinkerton publicly admitted of all the plays that he had stolen from Tom over the years. Okay, the board wishes Tom well in his retirement. We know that he'll be enjoying fishing and chasing down those tunas and blues and skiing up north. But his biggest accomplishment, or he can look back on, is the life lessons he taught his players over those years. Okay. Go ahead.
On the December 4th minutes, before we accept them,
Okay.
line number 36, as much as I'm sure Mr. Campo enjoys creamy French desserts, I don't think that he asked for a 5-year flan. I think it was probably a plan.
5-year, what?
Is it really Spanish? Well, I apologize to the French. I was trying to get them to give us something good. So it's a Spanish dessert. Ah, see this? We'll get, when's Nancy coming back for the budget? Maybe she can bring us flan.
Thursday.
Perfect.
You got a request?
Yeah, we'll put the request in. I like it. So I think that's supposed to be a plan.
Plan. Okay. Anything else? Seeing none, all those in favor of the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
I just want to make sure Mary knew we read these things.
Lisa?
The student council has donation cans in the cafeteria to benefit Londonderry Warm Homes, and I know they gave a presentation to the board 2 weeks ago, and so we'd just like to let everyone know that there are collection cans in the cafeteria at the high school during all lunches. And today the student council set up a dessert table during the faculty meeting just as a token of our appreciation and a little thank you for all your hard work so far this year. And tomorrow there is all of the executive boards for the class reps and the student council are getting together just to discuss and go over their plans for the rest of the year and what's going on, what they've done, and what's been successful for them.
Londonderry High School swim coach Christina Ewan wants everyone to know that the Herbert Darling Memorial Relay will take place on December 22nd at the Workout Club and Wellness Center here in Londonderry. Enough students have signed up, so they'll be fielding 2 teams, continuous relays going on from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. on that day, and she'd love to have you all stop by. The Londonderry School District has received formal notification that the new master plan for staff development has been approved by the New Hampshire Department of Education. A formal presentation by Mr. Greenberg will occur at building faculty meetings. And thanks to Mrs. Ballard, the plan is available on the web for staff access, and a print copy has been placed in each school library as well. So we're going to save probably, I don't know how much paper, but considerable amount of paper not printing that out for every member. Elementary teachers have completed administering the Unit 2 reading assessments with their students. Holiday concerts have been taking place with the middle school students performing this Saturday. North School students from Lillian Pirog's class, will be entertaining the seniors with caroling at the Senior Center. And rumor has it that there are now at least 118 participants in the Pantene Beautiful Lengths haircutting event, with still about another month to go before the big day, so I bet the number will be even higher.
Thank you. Board, start down, Dan.
I went to the curriculum C3 meeting, and the presentations that were made, Lynn Slapsis made a presentation relative to some new curriculum that they're introduced down there, and the middle school, Ann Kalachi, and the elementary assistant principals made the same presentation that they made to the board a couple, 3 meetings ago. So, there you go.
Steve?
I didn't have any liaison meetings since last Tuesday when we reported, but I would like to make a note. I stopped into the high school as an observer, not a participant, for the senior dinner on Friday night. Senior as in senior citizens. Yes, I'm looking at Carol when I said that. So.
Ooh.
But I needed to find a way to apologize for the comment about the It isn't working about the age of. Regardless, the Friday night senior dinner, which Carol was not at, and I wasn't either, was run by the Honor Society. And there was about 100 seniors that came out to the event, even though the weather was a little bit dicey. And they had excellent food. And some seniors over the weekend that I spoke to commented on how polite all of the students were and how nice it was to see the young men dressed up in ties, even if they were pulling at their necks once in a while. So just my hats off to the Honor Society for pulling that off once again. They do it twice a year, and it's very, very impressive. And to see them interact with the students is interesting too. Lisa, I don't have the number. I was just wondering if you did. I know that the school collected quite a number of cans.
Over 9,000.
Over 9,000, because that ended on Friday also. I saw the thermometer in the lobby.
Still counting.
Still counting. And those went up to the St. Jude food pantry and were being put together in baskets for those in need in the community. So again, we just wanted to say that our students in the school system are just incredible. Thanks, Ron.
Okay. And I had the council meeting, I guess it was last Monday, and again, the major topic of there was the ethics committee or the ethics code of conduct, and they've decided to split it up between the code of conduct and leave the ethics committee off for the time being. So that's what they're working on, and they're going to be discussing it at their next meeting. Nate, has any word coming out on the retirement plans of the funds, on what they're looking at up in Concord on that?
No, not at this point. They have, I believe, a gentleman's name is Bartlett, who is attempting to pull everything together and work with the various groups, but there's been no new information coming out as to a final resolution or final recommendations other than the ones that had already come out last year, so it's still in process.
Okay, thank you. Okay, curriculum report. Mark, do you want to
Wait, what about
I'm
George
sorry.
and Ben?
I forgot.
Well, it would have been fun. I don't think I would have minded. You wouldn't mind?
I actually have something to say. You know, I'm not a big fan of liaison reports, but I did actually do something this time. On Saturday, I attended the Athletic Field Study Committee meeting, and for those of you who are like me that have always wondered about this committee, I just want to mention that it was authorized in 1984. It's a committee appointed by the school board to report back at the district meeting on the current conditions of the outside athletic fields and matters pertaining to them, with recommendations to revitalize their quality and scope. It's the committee that's headed up by Bob Lincoln, and it's most well known for the warrant article that appears each year for improvements, capital improvements to our athletic fields. It's important to note that the capital improvements to our athletic fields are not part of the school district budget. In the budget, we have maintenance items, equipment for mowing the grass, for maintaining the fields, but any field improvements that are related to the school district that you see in this town are a function of this committee and the warrant article that is put forward by this committee each year. So at this meeting on Saturday, we were reviewing the needs again, projected needs and past needs for athletic activities, not only for the school district, but also for the recreation programs in this town that use school district fields. And this would include independent organizations like LAFA and soccer, but also town-sponsored recreational activities that use school district fields. So it's more than just a school district activity. It's an activity that supports recreation throughout the town. And from my perspective, it's critically important that the function of this committee continue and make recommendations, because it provides activities for our youth after school. It keeps them active and busy and off the streets. In any event, the purpose of the meeting Saturday was just to review the proposed warrant article. I don't want to take the thunder from Bob Lincoln, who will be here later this week to talk about the article itself. But the committee each year has tried to propose items that would improve fields and activities of all the kids who participate in different sports, be it baseball or soccer or football, or even activities like band, which use the fields for practice. So Bob will go over in detail all the different areas for which the money that will be proposed from the warrant article will be spent. But it's just important to know, one, that I'm the school district rep to that meeting. I did go to the meeting, and that this is very important, and that this money is used for capital improvements and is not found in our budget, which we'll discuss to death later this week. So that's my report.
George?
No, and like Steve, I didn't have any liaisons, but Lisa, again, take back our sincere thanks to all your fellow students. You guys do a great job, and we appreciate it.
Okay. Now, Mark.
Thank you. While Andy is handing out folders to
Thanks,
you,
Andy.
I'll get us started. This evening in under curriculum, there are a number of presentations related to common assessments, the computation results, and so forth. This is kind of the beginning of our attempt at providing the public and the board information on how well our students are performing during the course of the year. As you know, approximately 18 months ago, the board wanted us to move more into the direction of reporting how well our students are doing based on the benchmarks rather than the benchmark monitoring checklist. So this is kind of the first attempt. You will see subsequent reports this year. As Pat Slozak alluded in her report, the elementary teachers just completed their Unit 2 reading assessments. Once they've completed Unit 3, we will be providing a report on the reading program results, those unit benchmark assessment results. And from indications from teachers, they have seen some significant gains from Unit 1 to Unit 2 at the elementary level. But we'll be providing reading, writing out of that, as well as mathematics. But this evening we'll focus on the middle school, and we'll start with the writing reports, which is in your packet. And I'll start with you, Ann.
Tonight, we're going to report the results of grades 6 and 7 writing prompts. We administered these in October, and it will be the first of 2 formal writing prompts this year. The second one will be in the spring. The language arts departments do regularly administer writing prompts in their individual classrooms, about an average of 2 to 3 a week, but these, for purposes of reporting, we'll do it in the fall and in the spring. You'll notice also that we are not reporting the 8th grade results at this time, and that was due to the administration time. The 6th and 7th gave theirs while the 8th grade was taking their kneecap writing prompt. Worked real well for the school in terms of scheduling, since we already had a third of the school taking their kneecap one, that the 6th and 7th grade should stay in testing mode and do theirs at the same time. So because of that, the 8th grade administered theirs a little bit later for reporting purposes, so we'll report out theirs in January. So this report that you have right now just includes the 6th and 7th grade. Our prompts this year were modeled after the kneecap prompts, which typically are a piece of text, whether it's a poem or a piece of an essay, and then the students are asked to respond to that. So it was a little bit different than prompts that we've done in the past. And they were assessed on the 6 traits of writing: ideas, organization, voice, word choice, sentence fluency, and conventions. And we've included the definitions for those 6 traits in your packet, just so that it's clear what that assessment involves in terms of ideas or voice, etc. And then it was determined for scoring that a student that received a 4 or a 5 in a trait exceeded the average writing standard. If they received a 3, they met the average writing standard, and a score of 1 or 2 indicated that they were a struggling writer. So that's the rubric that we used. At the sixth grade level, you can see that almost 80% of all of our writers are in the meets or exceeds category, which we were real pleased with, in all 6 traits. Conventions and word choice and organization, 84% of them were in that meets or exceeds. At the 7th grade level, there's a big jump in numbers in meeting and exceeding, with over 90% of all our students scoring in that range. We had some discussion at the department meeting as to why it's a great problem to have that they're jumping ahead in the 7th grade, but why there was that big jump. One of the things the teachers talked about was that the 6th graders were not familiar with this kind of prompt. This was their first time seeing a prompt of that sort where they were responding to writing, where the 7th grade, they did that last year, and now they're doing it again this year. So we would hope to see that same jump with the 6th grade students in the following year. We also talked about giving the prompt a little bit earlier. Typically, the language arts teachers give a baseline writing assessment not long after school starts, and they would like to do that same thing with their formal prompts rather than in a close time frame. We use this information, have already started using this information to talk about what our curriculum will look like this year. So if we saw strengths or weaknesses in particular traits, then teachers had discussions about how we could emphasize those things in their instruction. We were also really pleased to see that both word choice and conventions were traits that we scored very well in, and these are 2 areas that we've already made adjustments to our curriculum this year. We purchased vocabulary books for every grade level, and I know Andy's going to talk about the daily oral language notebooks that he passed out. We've begun to implement those, which is in the area of convention, so we're already seeing good results there. I think that's it for the writing prompt, if there's any
Questions from the board? George?
And actually, you answered, well, you addressed the first issue that I wanted to understand, was the difference between the 6th graders and 7th graders in that number. I think you said that we're going to do this, when are we going to do this again?
in the spring.
Okay, so I should be able, since these, if we're going to say we think it's because the 6th graders never seen this before, I should see a significant improvement in the spring. And my concern was I didn't want to wait till next September, because that's going to be a whole new group of 6th graders. So let's say next September, October, what can we do to get the 6th graders ready to take this test? Because right now, if it's an anomaly that they just haven't taken it before, frankly, the data doesn't do us a lot of good.
I think the data that will be important is when we begin to compare. We just don't have that data yet. So next year in the fall, you'll be looking at the 7th grade data, and that will
Right.
compare to this year's 6th grade. So
No,
that will be where we'll
I
see
understand.
our growth.
Yep, no, absolutely. I mean, I understand that, but if I'm always going to get, the first time the 6th graders see it, if I'm always going to get the high numbers, and I'm always going to chalk it up to the fact that they've never taken anything like this, is there a way that we can back this up and give them a practice at it so that those numbers become more meaningful?
I'll respond to that, George. I think as you will see when we report out elementary, in the elementary program, built into what Pat and the elementary teachers are doing, we are giving both short and extended types of responses based on 6 traits as well. They're using the Scott Forsman rubric, so we hope to see some nice transition from the exiting 5th grade, kids that leave Matthew Thornton North and South, as they go into the middle school when they take their 6 traits writing prompt for the first time at LMS. So we think that they'll be prepared to take that type of a prompt.
Okay, good. Thanks, Mark. Thanks, Ian.
Dan?
Annie, if you made a presentation on this before, I apologize, but what exactly is 6 traits writing prompts? Do we assign them short reading and then they write a paragraph about it, or do they say write about anything you want and then we analyze it, or what are 6 traits writing
The
prompts?
6 traits is a rubric that's used for any kind of writing. So it's the scoring mechanism for whether you're doing a creative writing piece, whether you're doing a technical writing piece, whether you're responding to.
But what are we say I have a classroom of 27th graders and I say, okay, I'm going to score this. Do we say start writing, or what do we do?
Sometimes there is that kind of spontaneous prompt. Sometimes it is a question
this is a poor one, but for lack of a quick idea, what did you do on your summer vacation? Sometimes, like this one, there were poems that they were given, poems that children are fairly familiar with, and then they were asked a question about that particular poem.
The reason I ask this is, let's use that example, the poems. Maybe I'm a creative writer, and now you've assigned me a specific task, and I'm a little bit more challenged. Does that make sense?
I
So-
think certain
So
ones
you
are.
tell me read a poem and write about it, and I'm going, I have no idea what the poem, if you told me Beowulf, I have no idea what the poem meant, so how am I going to write anything about it?
I think the teachers, and that is absolutely a problem, and I think that's a piece that will come to you when we report on the 8th grade prompt.
Okay.
Because the 8th grade teachers did feel that their prompt, after looking at what they received from the students, was not as good of a choice as it could have been. So I think
Okay.
that's something that we struggle with all the time, to pick something that all children can access. So I think we take that into consideration, and fortunately, the traits give you a fairly objective rubric, so you can kind of rule out, in some cases, with the exception of ideas, that one piece really does deal with how well you can address that prompt. But with the exception of that trait, I think the traits helps us to fix that problem as much as we can. But it is something that's always under discussion. That was the first discussion
fair
we had
enough.
about these results.
Okay, great. I mean, the results were great, but
Right,
thank you very much.
you're welcome.
Mark, you want to say
I would
something?
just add to your comment, Dan, I think, when we do give a formal prompt, the appeal or interest of some kids, it may be kids have a greater interest in poetry, whereas another student that they might not be so much interested. So there's a degree of subjectivity when it comes to writing and scoring writing results as a
Sure.
result.
Thank you.
Ben?
What does this tell us or you about consistency of instruction?
I think this is a general comment to you as a grade level. Internally, the teachers have the opportunity to look at one team's scores versus another team's scores to see how they compare. And we have had conversations about that as well. We've also had conversations about the subjectivity of correcting them. And teachers actually at the last department meeting brought a sample of what they scored as a 5, a 3, and a 1. And then they shared it amongst teams to sort of self-check themselves to be sure they're on the same track. But it basically gives you a skill level or mastery at this point when you see it in a compilation of this sort.
What else do we do to ensure that instruction is consistent across grade level in this topic area?
In the topic of writing in specific, or?
Yeah, well, and I ask this question on all areas.
Right.
That's, it's always been my primary concern. I mean, tests are important, and I believe they're important, but my concern has always been that we are rendering the opportunity to every student, and that instruction is consistent in grade level between classes. And what do we do? And this has always been my concern as a board member. There's very few things I can control, but one of the things I think I have influence over is the ability to ensure that teachers are delivering the curriculum as we've asked that it be delivered. So this is great, and I understand why the board's gone this direction, but it's still always my concern. What can you tell me to provide assurance that every child in the 6th and 7th grade has received the same instruction that every other child has gotten? That every parent can be assured that their child has been afforded the same opportunity?
If I can, I think when you look at the writing sample that we looked at just now, you'll see that from a fall to spring growth. What I think, when you look at the social studies, which is the next one we're going to discuss, you'll be able to see how we are able to look quarter by quarter that every child on every team has been exposed to the same things at the same grade level, because we administer in social studies one common assessment that covers that first quarter of the year. And now it's question by question, so as an administrator, I can look at a variety of things. Did one teacher not cover a whole section? Because it's going to show up in this common assessment when it comes to me. Did one group, and I'll use an example, we administered our science common assessment the other day, and a teacher came up to me and said, on question number 23, 41 of my kids got it wrong. And it was an eye-opener for that teacher, because now he went back and reflected on what he taught, and went across the hall and asked the other teacher, well, you didn't have many kids get that question wrong, what are you doing differently? So it creates conversations with the teachers about how to deliver the instruction. It provides us with a baseline to make sure that everybody has covered the same amount of material, and then it also allows us to, in some areas, which is the writing and the computation, to show more growth.
Can I continue?
Continue.
So if we've administered this in November, and in the example that you gave, you've noted that there are some issues, now we've let September, October, and most of November lapse. Is that the kind of delivery that we want to have in our school system, or is there something else that is a stopgap to prevent that from happening?
What I gave you in the binders that I was going to discuss a little later is simply, we noticed some things in writing from the Iowas that we talked about a few months ago. And we believe that some of those things need to be done on a daily basis. So in front of you, you have a binder that the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade teachers have constructed. There's actually 30 weeks. I just pulled out some samples. And there's a Monday to Friday problem of the day. It's about a 3 or 4 minute thing. And it's that constant practice on how to develop sentences. And what we're hoping is that by breaking it down into those small pieces like we did with computation, that when you pull it all back together in the spring, you're going to see a better overall writing sample. So we always work to break it down into its components and to deliver the daily services that hopefully result in, one, better test scores, but that's not what we're all about, but hopefully it's better writing scores for a child, not only at the middle school, but when they go on and take the SAT and do the writing sample there.
And so those were things that we addressed this fall from last year's assessments, that the vocabulary, the word choice, and the conventions were areas that we can work on. So that did happen between September and November, and the results on here, as I mentioned before, are strong in those two. So we can assume that it's made some difference in that time frame.
So as an administrator, how do you know that the teachers are following this guideline that you've left out for them?
Through department meetings, through informal observations, through formal observations. We do an awful lot of discussion once we administer the test. And that's probably the best part that's come out of these assessments, is that interaction between teachers. In some ways, they used to be an island. I taught 6th grade science on my team, and I didn't necessarily know what you were doing across the hall. These force those discussions, because you have to create the common assessment together, which that doesn't always go well, and we have to intervene sometimes to make sure that everything is covered. So we have to oversee the development of the test, and then the results come to us to do the presentation. So we're forced to look at the data just to put it together here. But to commend the teachers, what really happens is the discussions about instruction and that sharing of information cross-team and cross-grade level.
Anything else? Who takes this test?
The writing prompt?
Yes.
We're referring to everybody, all students.
Okay. My gut tells me, as I look at the 7th grade, the does not meet is low. I mean, the numbers in here are 2% and 3%, and knowing our population, that doesn't seem to be reflective of what I would think the population is. As I look at it, what can you tell me? I don't want to say, are we grading too easy? Is there something we need to do to look at that? Because as I look at the 6th grade prompt and those numbers there with the do not meet, maybe a little bit high, but more in the range I would be thinking somewhere in the 10 to 15%. And I look at this, and this is in low single digits, and it says, boy, that just doesn't seem like it's giving me a true story there. So, I mean,
It's certainly something I can bring back for
Can
discussion
you
with the
can you take a
teachers
look
and
at-
look at those. Mhm.
because we can't have everybody writing at that level after just a year of the instruction. It would be wonderful it happened. My gut's telling me that's not the case.
Right.
And can we compare this with something else? Does it compare out with an Iowa from these children back in 6th grade last year? Something to bounce it against. I'm not trying to be difficult, but it's just not sitting right in my gut.
We can look
Statistical
at the 6th and 7th, we don't necessarily have a formal writing sample. Like the 8th, you'll get back the kneecaps.
Okay.
So you'll have a direct comparison. The problem will be what the prompt is. I mean, one of the issues we ran into with the kneecap prompt, the first one they did for students was all about babysitting. And 8th grade boys don't want to write about babysitting. So that was one of the facts that the test realized was, wow, that wasn't a great question for all students. So whenever you give a writing prompt, we can look at some mechanism to try to find a way of giving us a baseline for that 7th and 6th grade.
Yeah, all I'm saying is I just don't, right here, and if we can look at it, maybe some of these papers need to be looked at by the 6th grade teacher and the 7th grade to give some sort of relative balance on it, just the way they're looking at the prompts or something like that, just to look at it.
Yep.
We'll
Okay.
do that.
It is possible that we do a good enough job doing this, that these are the correct results.
It could be,
I want to believe that.
I know you do.
So do we, Ben, so do we.
I apologize, Ben, but when I look at the makeup of our district, these seem low. Okay, thank you. Next item.
The second piece that you have in your board packet this evening is the first results of the grade 6 through 8 social studies common assessment results. And again, I'll turn it over to Ann to walk you through the details.
And I think beforehand, just to frame a little bit of what we've been saying about the common assessment, sort of as a definition, first of all, for us in the middle school, a common assessment is a assessment that is created by the 4 grade level content teachers, and they've agreed on those questions to all give that same test and to administer it within a common time frame. Not specifically necessarily on the same day, but within a week or 2 framework, so that everybody, to address Ben's question before, everybody's sort of on that same pacing chart, give or take. The assessment could be in the form of a multiple choice test, or it could be a project or a lab. And in fact, in the social studies this time, the 6th and 7th grade were multiple choice tests, but the 8th grade was a project. All students receive that same assessment, and the data is then collected and summarized. And in reference, Ron, to a little bit of what you said, again, that is the same assessment. However, when we talk about children that have IEPs with very specific regulations, we have 2 things we had to take into consideration. If they have an accommodation on their test, then the 4 teachers created a common accommodated test. If it is accommodated, it still has to address the same curriculum. It's just the format of the test might look different. There might be a word bank available, but it's still assessing the same benchmarks. So I've included those accommodated test scores in here. If a child is in a modified curriculum, in other words, is not at grade level, then we did not include those results. So that would, in this case, that would address that.
But that doesn't happen in the other.
No, that's different in the writing
Okay.
prompt, yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So they all received the same assessment, and our hopes is that this will assure the board and certainly the administration that all the material is being covered consistently and in a timely fashion. And it allows teachers the opportunity to, after giving that assessment, to adjust, modify, differentiate the content when they see a particular strength or weakness in their curriculum. And then it's also providing discussion at department levels with me, where we look at our curriculum as a whole, make decisions about next year if we need to make adjustments, and also transitions from grade to grade. If we're seeing a particular weakness that was not addressed this year, discussing that with the next grade level to be sure that we do it in the following grade. So starting with social studies, we've summarized their first assessment, all 3 grades. Again, the data is organized in those categories of exceeds, meets, or doesn't meet, and the percentage cutoffs should be on your sheet. The teachers feel strongly that even though a student technically would receive a passing grade at 60% on a report card, the staff did not feel that that indicated meeting standards. So we did not place 60% as our cutoff for meeting. Because each grade level is assessing a different set of benchmarks, you'll note that there's an attached explanation of what the test covered. So that it gives you a summary of what the benchmarks were and the focus that was addressed on that particular grade level assessment. This is different than the other reporting that we've done, where you can't look at the reporting and say, oh, quarter 1 we did this, and then quarter 2 we should see improvement, because the test is on different set of content. So I just want to clarify that piece. However, we can look year to year for teachers to see that every year our students are still doing poorly. For example, in this area of the content, we need to make adjustments to improve there. But we can't compare the first common assessment in 6th grade to the second common assessment because it is different content, different material. And the same goes from year to year. We're not going to see the growth it's measured in the same way because what you'll notice what they're testing in the 7th grade, the 7 elements of culture, was different than what they were tested on in the 6th grade, which is the 5 themes of geography. So, and in the 8th grade, it was history. So it's a little bit different. Our purpose is more to address the consistency that all students are receiving the same instruction, having the same opportunities, and then also to give our teachers and the administration the opportunity to directly assess where we need to make shifts in our curriculum. Let's see. If we look at some of the trends in there, better than 40% of our students are exceeding the benchmarks in the first quarter when you look at all 3 grades. And then in this case, it's about 10% needing improvement. The greater number at the 8th grade level, we had discussions about that, and the staff felt that this was attributed to the fact that the 8th grade assessment was a project, which means a portion of this had to be done at home and it had to be handed in. So if it's not handed in, you clearly you need improvement. You don't meet that benchmark. And so they felt that when they looked at their 15% that did not meet the benchmarks, that when they looked at those individual students, it was not due to lack of resources or instruction. It was due to the fact that the child didn't have the necessary preparation done to hand in. There is a lot of support given to the students that do not meet the benchmarks. Number one, one opportunity is to complete a reflection that requires the students to analyze why they did poorly, to kind of take responsibility for the fact that maybe they did not go to extra help, that they did not attend review sessions, that they don't really pay attention in class, that maybe they don't get their homework done regularly. Some of those loopholes that could create a problem for them to be successful on the test. They also have an opportunity to complete a test analysis where they are required to come to extra help, correct their test, and then retake it to see if they have learned the material that they didn't learn. There's extra help sessions offered in all of the classrooms. And then at times, if needed, there's conferences with parents to talk about the child's study habits. Do they, in fact, think they are studying correctly? And is there a way that we can give them better study skills to assist them? And then, as a last resort, in some cases, if we begin to see that as a trend for students, then having discussions about modifications of the test format. Any questions on the
Questions
social
from the board?
studies?
George.
And Mark, let me get to the microphone. I got 2 people call me today and say we all got to talk closer to the microphone. So there's the 7 people that are out there watching can hear us. I'm okay with the 6th and 7th. I got a question about the 8th grade and a project and whether that's the best way to look at this. And Anna, you hit the nail on the head when you said, well, it may be because somebody takes it home and doesn't turn it back in. So that's not really addressing curriculum delivery. It's not really addressing whether somebody's grasping the concepts. It's just their study habits or their organizational skills. Granted, we need to understand that, but I'm not sure that that's a valid, frankly, I really don't think it is valid,
I think
assessment.
when the teachers looked at the particular students that were that population, they felt that it would have been the same result regardless. Because the flip side of that coin is if we only assess on multiple choice, we also are losing out on that group of students that can't best express what they do and don't know in that format. So teachers felt that it was important to have a variety of them throughout the year to really get back the best information on each student. Some students who are very bright are not very good test takers, so to take that very traditional multiple choice test that might not give a good picture as well, so.
But an essay may. My only concern here is you're looking at a study habit or an ability of someone to bring something back in to school as opposed to what they actually are learning or what they know.
Just to note.
Just a comment. Nothing more.
455 students took it. There were only 466 in the 8th grade. So it affected 11 students, but it automatically put them in the did not meet category. So I mean, the total number.
Wait, I'm sorry, Andy, say that again?
On the total number of kids tested, it was
Right.
455 completed it.
Right,
There are 466 in the 8th grade.
that didn't complete.
Right, so there are 11 children that automatically got into the did not meet because they didn't
Because they chose not to turn it back in.
chose not to turn it in.
Okay. All right. I was still not sure.
Comments? Ben?
I was just going to make a comment rather than a question. I still don't understand how this test goes to evaluating the consistency of delivery of instruction in the class. The comments that you've made earlier, go to satisfying that concern. To me, this will always just be a measure of knowledge, of content, the amount of information that they have. It's no different than any other test. Now, you may be able to discern information from this, but on a real-time basis, it's got to be the observation in the classroom, the interaction with the teachers that
Absolutely.
provides, and the ability of the administrators to identify weaknesses on a real-time basis that ensures me as a board member that we are delivering the curriculum as delivered. I mean, if I had assurances to that and these were all zeros, I would have said, well, we did the best we could, they just aren't very smart. But, this is good to have these kinds of results, but by themselves, they tell me nothing. It doesn't tell me, for example, in where it says meets, they could have slipped in at 79 or 80 or 81 and missed 5 points because some teacher didn't feel like teaching some part of the curriculum, which we've considered important. I'm not saying that's happened, but it tells me nothing about that. Maybe they should have all scored in exceeds expectations, but for the fact that we didn't teach certain things. Only through your observations and interaction on a daily basis with the teachers do we have the assurances that everything we thought was taught was actually taught in the classroom.
Ben,
So
to get to your point, we don't look at this as being the be-all and end-all. This is one part, a component. If you remember, a number of years back, we went to a 4/5 observation model. So each administrator is required at a minimum to do four observations every 5 days. In addition to that, we've also instituted what we call the 3-minute walkthroughs, which have been very effective with the administrators getting in on an informal basis in all the classrooms. So when we look at how do we monitor and check whether or not curriculum is being consistent, there really is a multi-step process. Obviously, the on-site observations in the classrooms is one. 2, the formal observations, that's the second component. 3, the digestion, if you want to call it, of common assessments, test results, the state assessments are another component, which allows us to take a look not only at how well the individual kids are doing, but also whether or not there appear to be particular holes in the curriculum or particular holes with individual groups of students, which would either be reinforcing or saying, geez, I don't know how we missed that they weren't teaching the long vowel sound, or that Columbus discovered America in 1492 in Class X. So there are multiple ways in looking at it. What we're looking at as far as the common assessments are concerned is that the common assessments are based on the benchmarks. So that if you look at the results of your students, if you see a pattern in a particular class with a particular group of kids, and those kids have normally performed, fairly well in other areas, that would be an indicator to you or reinforcement to you that some of that information was not covered in that classroom. Also, too, this is used as an additional component to say, yeah, we covered X or we covered Y, but the kids still don't seem to be catching on to that particular topic, and we've got to go back. That may mean that either we didn't spend enough time, it's not covered on that particular topic, or with this group of kids, we just have to spend more time because in the previous years, the kids had tended to do well. So if you take into account all the factors that go into it, including the discussions that we have at grade levels, the grade level discussions that we have throughout the school district, the intergrade level discussions that we have, the discussions that we have with the teachers between the middle school and the high school, the elementary schools and the middle school. All of those things combined are to get at your main issue, which is, are we exposing the kids to the curriculum that we in fact have developed and set up? And so it's a matter of taking all these parts and pieces to put them together, because any one individual piece is not going to give you the complete answer. So unless an administrator sat in Pat Slozak's class every single day, which would probably be very interesting,
To say the least, yeah.
to say the least, to follow, is she covering the curriculum and program? So what we do with all the observations, the formal observations, the informal observations, the assessments, the department meetings, the grade level meetings, all of those are designed to get at exactly what your concern is. In addition to that, we have over the last several years gone to make sure that we have these curriculum toolkits in place so that people know what in fact is supposed to be taught and where those resources are. One of the other reasons that we went, and just use this as an example because it's the easiest thing to do, to the core reading program was to make sure that we had all the material set up and a curriculum set up that would allow our kids to basically sequence through. So if Mrs. Smith or Mr. Smith is a first-year teacher in 3rd grade or in 7th grade social studies, that material is there. It's not like they've got to start from scratch. Not to say that it's easy to pull everything together, but there's the curriculum, there's the program, these are the expectations, these are the benchmarks. And they're there. So all these things are in place to allow us to be as consistent as possible. Now, is something every once in a while going to slip through? When you got 430 teachers, something someplace is going to happen, or there's going to be an issue with group X and they're having difficulty learning these skills, and rather than go on to the schwa sound, I'm still going to be working on the short A, because if they don't know the short A, I'm not moving on to the schwa or whatever. Or if they can't add, subtract, and multiply, I'm not going to percentages. But the setup is there. We've, over the last couple of years, the board has in a sense been a whetstone to our blade, to sharpen our blade in looking at how we want to implement the curriculum and how consistent we want to be. So that has gone along with the math adoptions that we've had, the reading adoptions, the new adoptions at the high school for the different textbooks, so that if a kid is taking calculus in class by teacher X, basically receiving the same calculus curriculum from teacher B. And we are continually looking to refine it so that as we move ahead, it's going to be, if you count homework as part of the grade in this class, and you're teaching the same subject at the high school, well, then maybe we ought to be counting homework as part of the grade there. I'm not saying whether you should or you shouldn't, but that there's an element of consistency. So not only in curriculum, but also application and also expectations. And that's what I think Mark and the curriculum coordinators and administrators have been working on. So it's not just this. This is just a part of what they're doing. And just so you know, too, that when I meet with the principals, one of the things that we talk about is, all right, what observations have you done? Where have you done them? They track them. And one of the reasons they track them is, like anybody else, you can get into a habit, and I'm always going to dance class and I never go to yours, or I just stop into yours. So people can see it. So we've got all those component parts in place. So, long-winded response.
Just
Go ahead.
beg the board's indulgence. I appreciate that, because from my perspective, during the budget season, for the most part, I sit and listen to how we're going to spend $60 million, and I agree, but I think this is the essence of what we do as board members, is to ensure that the $60 million is being spent for the delivery of education in our community. And I like listening to this, and I know I've heard all this before, and I would like to hear it again on the next quarter, because I think that's the essence of, as board members, that we are guardians or stewards of that money, and that money is being spent to deliver the education. I know you guys get tired of hearing it, and I know you're going to say, or you should say, hey, you know, they've already told us this, but it's an ongoing process, and every quarter, the question is, well, did we do it last quarter, and are we still doing it as we expect? And I agree with that, and I like hearing it, and I like hearing it next time, and so it won't bore me if you have to say the whole, refer back to 12, 11, and go to the tapes, because it's the same, but I like to hear it. And I hope you guys aren't bored by it, so.
Your point is very well taken, and it is really the essence of what we're doing, and it helps. And I think, you know, going back 7, 8 years, I think it's from my perspective, anyways, that each year we've gotten better, and we've put another we've gotten more sophisticated, and we've put other components in trying to look at everything as a whole. And I think that's happening, and hopefully we'll continue to go that way. And I think speaking from my perspective, and I think I can speak for the administrators, and for the teachers too, I think focusing the discussion on instruction and delivery instruction is absolutely what we want to do. And keeping that at the forefront is important. And with the board saying, have you thought of this? Have you thought of that? Why you do this? Is helpful to us sometimes. Is helpful to us, and continues to focus on it. I think that's important, and it's fine. I think it's really good.
Other questions from the board? Again, going back to Ben's point, the purpose that we are here is the curriculum. We're responsible for the curriculum. And that's one of the basic things that, you know, we constantly harp on, is the curriculum issues that we need to look at. It's easy for us to go into the financial area and go in there and dive deeply into that, but the curriculum is the reason we're here, and it's our responsibility as a board, the delivery of curriculum to the students. One more thing. I have to go back to what George is saying. If the projects is something you want to do, I'm not arguing the projects, but I'm not sure that it should be a home project, for the answer is that not turning it in, but the assistance that they may get at home also. So I ask you to consider how you implement the project portion of that.
The next piece under curriculum this evening is the computation report, and Andy will go through that with you.
We decided we're going to administer a November test. We wanted to get that benchmark early, so as you look at the sheets, this will be the first you'll see November numbers. And in November, we started off with the same format, a 30-minute test based on computation. At grade 6, students averaged 21 questions correct for about 73%. In December, it'll be noted that for the first time we went down to 20 minutes. We're trying to get the students into a ballpark of about 15 minutes to complete this test. So we jumped down earlier than we ever had. And I was very pleased to see that the numbers stayed pretty consistent with the 0506 and 0607, and they got just over 19 questions right for about a 67% average. So there is that dip, but that dip occurs every year because of the change in time. I think one of the things that we've learned, all of our students can do computation if there's no time frame. But the minute you put them on the clock, it gets more difficult. But since many of the tests they're going to take at the high school level, the SATs, the SATs, clock dependent in math, it really gives them that practice of how to manage their time. Grade 7, again, the November results were very good. 21 questions correct, 70% average. And then again, we have the same time reduction and the same dip. That dip is basically consistent with the other dips we've seen whenever we reduced the time. And we were very happy. I was talking with the same 7th grade teachers about the test, and they wanted to convey that they're really starting to see the difference with the students coming up. And I think really going down to the elementary school and starting this all the way up is really setting a great foundation for these children to really jump off from. And then grade 8, this was very interesting. This is the first group that has done computation tests for 3 years. And in November, they did 30 minutes, got 21 questions right. And then for the first time, they beat the norm, and they actually go up in December, even though we reduced the time. And all students take the test. Every child who's in a pull-out class, everybody. So there are some results that when we do the overall, a child might get 2 right, and next month they might get 4. So there is growth, but every single student in the building is taking the test. And I want to commend all those pull-out teachers who are doing a remarkable job setting this foundation. So we're very encouraged. The 8th grade has made it very competitive. Those 4 teachers are, you know, I would say kind of taunting each other and really hoping to take home the crown of having the best computation results. And as a former high school math teacher, I think what it's really doing is giving them that solid foundation in working with the numbers so that now they can learn the concepts of algebra for those students who haven't taken it in the 8th grade. It's taken a little time, but we're very excited about it. And these are, you know, and when I look at the writing prompts and things and the problems of the day that I gave the board, we're looking to start establishing those same trends across the board. So when we take our test data, we see our weaknesses, and then we attack them with both long-term and short-term solutions. Are there any questions on these computation results?
Questions from the board? Seeing none, audience? Okay.
Thank you.
At the request of the chair, if you'll divulge me for a minute.
Go ahead.
Recently, and this is a question you've been asking me since I've started here. And the question
My issue.
was, it has to do with our state tests. And Ron always had asked this question, well, how do kids that have stayed in Londonderry do compared to new kids that have never been in Londonderry schools? How do we compare between the newcomers and those that have been with us? I have the answer this evening. Recently, database administrator Tom Cranmer, he did an analysis comparing new students entering the district for the first time to those who have been in the district utilizing the 2006-07 grades 3 through 8 NECAP results. On average, students who have been in the district outperform new students in reading, math, and writing. In math, students who have remained in the district scored 3%, that's on the low end, at grade 5, to 7% at grade 6, higher than new students entering the district for the first time. In the area of reading, students who have remained in the district outperformed new students by a low of 3% at grade 7 to as much as 5% at grades 6 and 8. In writing, which you heard this evening, at grade 8, students who have remained in the district outperformed new students by 8%, while students at grade 4, it was 1% higher than new students. So overall, in all of those areas across grades 3 through 8, our students that have stayed in the district throughout their years have outperformed new students coming into the district. So you have your answer, sir.
Excellent, thank you very much.
The other piece, as long as I'm on the dibble, or on the assessments real quickly, in our recent fall DIBBLES benchmark assessments at K3, our scores are at the highest levels since implementation of the measures that we started in the fall of '04. In all areas tested, 81% or more of our students were identified low risk. In other words, they were performing where we want them to perform. Since the fall of 2004, students identified some risk and at risk have declined in many of the measures by 50% or more. In both NECAP and the DIBBLES examples that I provided, it demonstrates that our teachers and our administrators utilize the data to make appropriate instructional and curriculum decisions to improve student achievement for all of our students. So just wanted to share those two pieces tonight.
Go ahead.
I can't let this pass without saying this. I am not saying I believe this, but this just proved that we've done a great job of teaching to the test.
I would disagree with your assessment.
I didn't say it was my assessment. I'm just throwing it out there.
Okay.
It's on someone's mind out there.
I know,
that-
I know.
That's
but
what we're doing.
I would say that I think our teachers and our administrators were utilizing these various tools, as Nate explained this evening, I think to help drive our decision making and to make appropriate decisions that are in the best interest for all of our kids.
Other questions from the board? Mark? as we look at the students as they go through the system and we say they're low risk as we go there, is there a point where we go back and just do do we end up at one point, and I'm not sure where that point is it at the end of 8th grade, we say children at risk, and we have a population that we send to the high school? Have we looked back to, does it make sense what's at that level compared to when we say they're not at risk, they're not at risk, they're not at risk? Is there any way to see if when we say they're not at risk and when they get to the 8th grade that goes to the high schools, do they correlate somehow? And I may be way off base here. Do you know where I'm going with that? I mean, if we say no one's at risk or 90% of them are not at risk, and we get up to the middle school, and I know the number's not there, but 30% are at risk, doesn't make sense. Is there any correlation that you can kind of take it back to make sure the tests are really telling us where we are when we get to the point of a critical point, which is that 8th to 9th grade jump?
I think what you're talking about, for instance, the DIBELS measures discrete skills in reading. So that what it does do is give us an idea as to where the kindergarten, first, second graders are as far as those particular skills. And the term that is used is at risk, not at minimum risk, whatever. So I don't think it's as general as you're portraying, but what we can do is look at historically where the kids have fallen as far as our Iowa tests and other things, to see if in fact the kids that we identified in 4th grade are still the same children that we're identifying in 8th grade as having difficulty, and whether or not some of those were corrected. So what we can do is take, let's say, just for the sake of argument, 8th grade students that we have now identified and saying we have some concerns about them going on to the high school for whatever reason. Some may be academic issues, some may be social issues, and go back and look at those particular students and say, all right, what were the other indicators that came up? Now, and I can tell you that based on personal experience, and I'm sure that Pat and the other teachers and the administrators can tell you, that there are some youngsters that we can say in 4th grade, this child is going to have some difficulty, and we attempt some interventions on it. But we can go back and let's say, take a sampling in the 8th graders, go back and say, okay, if we've got 10, 15 kids, were there additional indicators along the way that indicated that they would be at risk, and where did it happen, and what kind of interventions took place, as well as looking at some of the kids that we consider to be our success stories, see where they were and what interventions were put in and which ones worked and which ones didn't work. So we can do that. I understand what you...
Yeah, nothing should be a surprise when we get to 8th grade. We should have seen this all along, is trying where I'm going to, and just to
Ron,
make sure we do
yeah,
that.
I would submit to you that by the upper elementary grades, right, you can pretty much say, we've got some issues with Dan here, and we've got to try some interventions to see. He only likes to read condensed versions.
We start
of books.
those.
And
I only
whether-
made it to 8th grade.
Yeah, and whether or not we can intervene. What you also see too is at certain break points, kids that had not exhibited any issues begin to exhibit issues, and sometimes you'll see it start to happen in 7th or 8th grade, and they're kids that had been fairly successful or there weren't much in the way of issues. In 7th and 8th grade, we begin to see some quote-unquote danger signs, if you want to call it that. And there's another group of kids that don't exhibit any of that in middle school, and freshman and sophomore year of high school, all of a sudden some things start to go south a little bit for a whole variety of reasons. So in some instances, you can at the elementary level, you can say, we're going to have some problems here. Other instances, there are kids that have been fine through elementary school, usual 6th grade issues, I can't open my locker, and all this other stuff. And in 7th and 8th grade, we begin to get some concern because of a variety of circumstances. And then there's another group of kids that once they hit high school, there's another set of circumstances that kick in. So some of the kids that we've worked with at the high school, no problem in elementary, no problem in middle school, and freshman, sophomore year, you start to pick up some of the signs, which is one of the reasons a number of years back we went to the freshman house and sophomore house over at the high school. That was another reason. So it's kid specific, but you can begin to see some, there are general patterns. There are groups of kids that begin to have trouble in high school, groups of kids begin to have trouble in middle school, and there's some kids that have trouble in elementary. And then also in the same token, we've seen kids who didn't do all that well in middle school blossom at the high school. All right, and the same thing with elementary, some kids who had difficulty in elementary school, and then bam, they hit middle school, and it's like night and day. But you can see with groups of kids, there are different patterns. I think that's a fair assessment. So.
And I think we've also greatly improved over the years our communication. I think there's so much communication between each of the levels now, so many opportunities as curriculum people and as departments, teachers talking, and then internally, that's been so helpful so that we don't have as many falling through the cracks, that we really have that heads up before they even arrive in our classrooms, so.
Okay, thank you very much.
The last piece in this curriculum section this evening is the C3 report. I'll quickly go through that with the board. C3 report, again, it's the Curriculum Coordinating Council. The mission of the council is to manage a process for continuously improving the alignment, development, and delivery of our curriculum K-12 so that we can achieve our strategic objectives and accomplish our mission. The goals and responsibilities are to identify curriculum issues, examine materials and professional staff options, and recommend to the superintendent research-based, consensus-supported solutions for implementation. This year on the council, we have 27 members on the 2007-08 council representing the 18 designations of C3. The elementary assistant principals and curriculum coordinators from the middle school and the high school are required to attend all meetings. At this time, all areas are represented on the council with the exception of parent representatives at Moose Hill, South School, and North School, science at the high school level, social studies at high school, and mathematics at the secondary level. Our participation during the 3 meetings we've had so far this fall, or this school year, our average attendance has been 16 at all of the meetings. The meetings are held monthly at 5:30 p.m. at the North School Library this year, and I've attached in your packet the calendar as well as the roster of the members. In addition, you will find a listing of all of the curriculum council or the curriculum subcommittees that are currently in place. There's roughly 3 1/4 pages of various committees at all levels that are working. Some of the activities, and I know Dan mentioned a couple this evening, a summary of the activities that have happened at C3 this year. There has been updates on the core reading implementation at the elementary level by some of the reading specialists, discussing pacing guide and how the overall implementation has gone so far this year. Database administrator Tom Cranmer has demonstrated the assessment data system to C3 and some of the features on that new system. Joe Oswald, our district technology integrationist, has provided information on our online texts and training updates as pertaining to that. There was also a review in the fall of the assessment results that the board also heard earlier in the year. There's also been updates and discussion on the high school writing as well as a junior English text initiative. As the board heard in the strategic plan presentation, those PowerPoints at the 3 levels were provided to C3 members. The committee also heard a timeline on the elementary science study that will begin in the start of the new year in January. The LEAP presentation that Dan alluded to earlier this evening was presented last month. And finally, an update on progress and information on the middle school reading English language arts study has been presented to C3. So those are some of the topics and issues that they have heard so far this year. Are there questions on the Curriculum Council report?
The only thing I'm going to ask is for North School and South School, can we talk to the PTAs to see if we can get a parent volunteer? I would expect that we can find a parent that'd be very interested in participating in these committees. Thank you. Thank you, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
Okay. Nate, you're up.
Yes, you have in front of you the November 30th enrollment report. Pre-K through 12, including special ed, out-of-district home study, and adult ed, 5,428 students compared to 5,435 last month. We have seen an 8-student increase in the LEAP program since our last report to you last month. We've seen an increase of 1 student at Moose Hill, plus of 1 at North, -7 at Matthew Thornton, -1 at South, -3 at the middle school, -6 at the high school. Same number of special ed out of district, same number of home study, and the number of students in adult ed went from 49 to 46. There's a drop of 2 in the night program and 1 from the day program. So there you go.
Questions? Seeing none? Go ahead.
I have one, Nate. Special education students are included in that number.
Yes.
So during the year, if they reach the age of 21, they would be just simply considered one of the drops?
No, they would be considered to have completed their program. If you're 21 and you age out, they would be considered to have completed the program, not a dropout.
But they would count as one less number on your report. And that's what I meant by drop, not drop out,
Yes.
but as a
Yes,
loss of a student.
that's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, we're all set with that. Next is the student management system.
Yes.
Peter?
Back in November, the Student Information Focus Group provided the school board with a detailed presentation regarding the assessment of the student management system that we currently use. The presentation outlined the issues and concerns with the current system, the process the focus group used to determine the correct path. Should we, i.e., upgrade the current program, or should we look at different solutions? And outlined the process the group used to select the best program that we thought met and fit the district's needs. The recommendation then and now is still the company called X2, with headquarters in Hingham, Massachusetts. At that board meeting, Mr. Parker had asked that a copy of the most recent financial statements from X2 be provided to the board. They were provided to the board, and subsequent questions from board members were forwarded to X2. Discussions between me and the owner of X2, I believe, have resolved most of the questions that board members had asked regarding the financials of X2. We are asking on behalf of the focus group tonight that the board accept and approve X2 as the new provider of the student management system for the Londonderry School District.
Questions from the board? Seeing none, may I have a motion to accept X2?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any more discussion?
I just have one piece
ahead.
of discussion. During the presentations, there was a bit of conversation about making sure we secure the source code, making sure that, we keep up to date on this, that, it's important, we look at the financials here of the company, and I want everyone to recognize, and I guess this is including the staff, I use a number of specialty software products in my company, and my company's been in business since 1989. And probably out of 24 specialty software products that I use, I think there's not a single one of those companies that are still in business. I still use many of the software products, but they're effectively frozen. So I just think it's something that's it's a generally accepted practice in the industry that you're going to end up with a package and not passing judgment at all on this company, just that X2 may end up in 5 years, you're still using it and the support isn't there, but it works. And maybe it'll work as long as the previous products that the staff has used. It's just something to recognize. It's just a back to life with software. So I appreciate the opportunity to say that. Thank you.
Any other comments, questions?
Well, because you deferred it, I would just like, I had questions originally about X2, and not with respect to the ability of the program to do what the district was asking, because I have no expertise there, and I deferred to the judgment of the people that did. But the question I had was with regard to the company itself, and Peter's provided financials, and while that didn't necessarily provide assurances that the company was viable long-term, it did provide a context from within to make a decision. I mean, we are not paying a large upfront fee. We're paying a yearly fee. We go into this decision fully aware that the software may or may not be supported at some point down the line. The administration has assured me, and I assume the other members of the board, that we have a contingency plan in the event that 2 or 3 years down the road, we have to make a change to the student information system. And I'm satisfied that that is in place and that we're fully aware of it. All things being said, I think it's a prudent decision to move forward and approve this.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0. Okay. Peter, the capital lease?
Yes, you have, remember I requested the board to accept, like, really, I guess by law, the interest rate, but also the institution for the FY08 capital lease. We solicited bids or proposals, I guess proposal is a better word, from 5 institutions. 2 did not submit anything. We don't know why. One of them being TD Bank North, who was last year's, provided the lowest interest rate last year. We have a new member, and that institution came in with the lowest interest rate, Cal First, out of, obviously, the state of California, Cal First Government Banking Group, and with an annual interest payment of $126,168. Baystone, we've done a number of transactions with, provided a rate, along with a company called MCL, who is the, I guess, for lack of a better word, subcontractor that Citizens Bank provided us as a hands-on transaction, who they recommended as a institution to receive a proposal from. Clearly, at 3.2, I can't see. I was flabbergasted with the rate we got. Being the first time, we did do some background checks on some local organizations that Cal First has done. All of them checked out fine. All of them had no problems. I think one comment was paperwork was a little bit excessive, but that was the only negative of any kind we received from them. So I don't see any reason to not to recommend Cal First for the FY08 capital lease at a rate of 3.2, annual payment $126,168.
Questions? George?
I'm sorry. Peter, just a couple quick process questions. You said we used TD Bank North, but there was no, they didn't, they maybe chose not to respond. We
Yeah.
sure they got the
Well,
RFP? How
we
do you do that?
called-
Yeah, I figured you probably
Yeah,
did.
we,
Okay.
this went out like 3 weeks, and then a Monday before it was due, Monday before the Friday, we had Cindy call everyone, make sure they got it.
Okay,
And they just never got around to submitting it.
thanks.
I think municipal leasing is getting to be a niche, and I don't think TD Bank North is really in that market to providing municipal, capital.
So this field could narrow
Yeah,
years down the road to just a couple that are smaller.
and Baystone is huge, and the MCL, I guess, like I said, is the one that Citizens is kind of handing off to do these kind of things.
And I guess the other question that I've got is, and probably should know the answer to this, do you know if the town has capital leases? And if they do, did we check with them?
I don't ever remember.
Yeah, I don't know whether they
Susan,
do
that
or
they do a
not.
capital lease,
Okay.
anything that's similar to this. I think that because, how do I say this? With the ability of having year-end surplus, they're able, I think, to use year-end surplus for the purpose sometimes of what we do this with.
Okay, I was just exploring whether this is another, opportunity to work with them on some financing and
Certainly, they don't do this
maybe if the
type of
debt's,
thing.
but yeah, okay, good, thanks, Peter.
Ben?
I'm not sure I understand this. Is this for the fiscal year '08?
Yes.
At least the one that's in the budget?
Yes. What we do is, if you remember, in the process, coming up on Thursday, for example, I'll use that, we'll propose a capital lease of, say, $400,000, and it gets approved through the budget process. What we do is, usually over the summer, because predominantly it's IT equipment or some trucks, we buy everything over the summer, so we know the exact dollar amount that we need to go out and borrow. And so we borrow in arrears. So once we know the dollar amount, we then seek the proposals from the financial institutions. They give us the rate. So our first payment for this is July 1st of 08. So the payment is like 6 or 8 months in arrears. What we used to do, I think, when I first got here, is the budget for capital lease would say $450. They would go out and do a capital lease for $450. The payments would be structured, but sometimes you only spend $425, so you're paying on interest that you didn't even use.
This is a 3-year lease?
3-year lease.
Okay.
Dan?
Peter, was there any local references? Are they municipal references?
The references, the only local one, and I think that's one of the reasons why I think you see a low one, is maybe they're trying to get into the municipal market of New Hampshire, or municipal schools, for them is the same.
That's okay.
We contacted New Hampshire YMCA, who they've done many transactions with, New Hampshire Institute of Art, and we called the town of Amherst, Massachusetts, who was one of the closer towns, and those are the 3 that we checked, and I think Amherst was the only one that said that the paperwork was a little excessive, but other than that, they've had no problems with the processing, and so there was no reason on our part to throw this bid out.
Other questions? Dan?
No, I was going to make a motion.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the recommendation of CalFirst for the capital lease financing for the fiscal year 2007.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, that takes care of that, 5-0. Anything else for non-public session? Or public session? Okay, seeing none, may I have a motion to go into non-public session?
Motion under RSA 91A 3, Section 2, A through I.
Second?
Second.
Roll call?
Aye.
Ron Campbell. Okay, we are in non-public session. If you're in this room, you're on the air.
They're waiting for the student management system to go out.
Okay.
Hey, Jake, can you make sure you throw email you to me? It's miserable out there.
Please drive carefully going home. I thought he moved Friday.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Thank you very much.
You want the contents of it?
On his way back to Lebanon.
Okay.
No, you can absolutely keep the copy. Came
Okay.
back, so wanted to be here for the SIS.
All right. No, it's a good presentation.
Nice presentation. I think so.
I think that's good.
Okay, when I read this.